In this video, I will talk about the equation of a circle. I will show you how to graph a circle, and given the equation of a circle in different forms, I'll show you how to change it into a form that makes it easier for you to graph. The equation of a circle in standard form looks like this. In this form, you can see the center of the circle is h, k, and the radius over here is represented by r. To get this equation into standard form, we need to divide both sides of the equation by 5. So I'm going to wind up doing this and dividing everything by 5. If I do that, I'm going to get x squared plus y squared is equal to 25. Okay, now this tells me that the center must be 0, 0. Again, remember the formula for the circle is x minus h squared and then y minus k squared. The h and the k, that's the center. But if all I have is x squared and y squared, that must mean h and k were 0. That's why you're not seeing an h and k showing up in the equation. So if you just see x squared and y squared, you know the center is 0, 0. Now, this 25 is the radius squared. Okay, so this is r squared. So obviously, if r squared is 25, then r must be 5. And you can think of it as taking the square root if it makes you feel better. Normally we'd have a plus or minus, but lengths can only be positive. So we know that the radius is going to be 5. So with this information, we can go ahead and do the graph. All right, we're going to graph a circle with center 0, 0 and radius 5. So if here's the center at 0, 0, if the radius is 5, that means if I go up 5, this should be a point on the circle. If I go to the right 5, to the left 5, if I go down 5. Okay, so these 4 points are enough to show me where the circle is. So here's my graph for problem number 1. Okay, let's see if the next one will be that easy. So I see the 1/4 and the 1/4. We need to get rid of that. The easiest thing to do is to multiply both sides of the equation by 4. So that means I'm going to multiply by 4 here, here, and here. That's going to give me a new equation that's going to be x squared plus y squared is equal to 16. Now again, this is r squared. That means r is going to be the square root of 16. In other words, r is going to equal 4. Again, the center is 0, 0 because I see it's just x squared and y squared. There's no h and k visible. And as I said, the radius is 4. So we should be able to graph this very easily once again. Okay, with the center at 0, 0, with the radius 4, I'm just going to go 4 up, down, left, and right. So here's my graph for problem number 2. Sometimes we will be given the equation of a circle in what's called general form. Notice there are no parentheses involved. So in general form, you cannot tell at a glance what's the radius or the center of the circle. So it's not as useful in that way. However, we can convert this into standard form by completing the square. I will show you that now. So here's an equation that's in general form. In order to convert this into standard form, I need you to see certain terms have x's in them and other terms have y. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is regroup these so that the x terms are together and the y terms are together. Also, the constant, I'm going to move away. So before I really do anything else, I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. So this 9 is going to wind up as a negative 9 on the other side. So now I'm regrouping. So the x terms I'm going to put next to each other. So I have x squared plus 6x. They go together. I'm going to leave space to complete the square. Then I'm going to have my y terms. So I've got y squared plus 6y. They go together. So I've got plus y squared plus 6y. Okay, and again, I'm going to leave space to complete the square. Okay, and then on the other side of the equation, I have the negative 9. So now I need to complete the square. So the way I complete the square, for the x part, I do half of the middle squared. So half of this is 3, and then 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to put a plus 9 right here, completing the square. Now if I add a 9 on the left side of the equation, I need to add 9 on the right side of the equation as well. Now I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. And for the same reason, I'm going to get 9 again. So half the middle squared. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So I'm going to put a plus 9 on the left. Well, I added 9 on the left, so again, I need to add 9 on the right. Okay? Now, with this trinomial, for the x portion of it, I can factor this. So this is going to factor as x plus 3 times x plus 3. Okay? X squared, that's x times x, 9, 3 times 3. And it had to be the same thing twice. Then I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. Okay, if I factor this trinomial, okay, well, it's identical except for their y. So this will be y plus 3 times y plus 3. Okay, negative 9, positive 9, they cancel each other out, and I've got 9 over there. Okay, so now I'm going to have x plus 3 squared, all right, because there's 2 of them. And then I'm going to have plus y plus 3 squared. And this is all equal to 9. So what you can see is I now have converted from the general form equation of a circle to the standard form equation of a circle. So now I can look for my h and my k for the center, and the square root of this number will be the radius. Okay, so the center should be, it's going to be the opposite of this and the opposite of that. When in an equation, when you see a minus and a minus, that tells you to do the opposite. Okay, so that's why my center is going to be negative 3, comma, negative 3. All right, it's the opposite of this and the opposite of that. My radius is going to be the square root of this, because this is the radius squared. 9 is the radius squared. That means the radius must be 3. So now that I have my center and my radius, I should be able to easily do the graph. Okay, so the center is negative 3, comma, negative 3. So that means I'm going to go here. So here's my center. And since my radius is 3, I'm going to go up 3, down 3, left 3, and right 3. So these points show me where my circle is. And boom, there's my circle. Okay, now pause the video and try to do number 4 by yourself. I'm going to assume that you did that. So the first thing I need to do is I need to divide everything by 4. All right, for a circle, I don't want anything in front of x squared and y squared. So I'm going to divide everything by 4. Now, unfortunately, we're going to get some fractions in this problem, so I don't see any way around that. So I'm going to have x squared minus 5x plus y squared is equal to negative 21 over 4. Okay, this is pretty ugly, but let's see what happens. So at least the x's are already next to each other. So I'm going to complete the square here. So I've got x squared minus 5x. I just need to leave a space. In fact, I think I'll just move this over. Okay, now I need to complete the square right here. This is going to give me more fractions because I need to do half of the middle. But because this is not divisible by 2, all I can really do is write negative 5 over 2. And then I need to square that. So that's going to give me 25 over 4. So that's what I need to add to both sides. So 25 over 4. So now I've completed the square. So this will allow me to factor this portion of it, okay, the x part. So if I factor this, x squared factors as x times x. Okay, 25 over 4 is going to factor as 5 over 2 times 5 over 2, or even negative 5 over 2 times negative 5 over 2, actually. All right, I can see that because the middle term was negative, I know these will both be negative. So there I factored it, and then meanwhile I have plus y squared. When you just have the y squared by itself, you don't need to complete the square or anything. It's already a perfect square. But I do need to add these together. Negative 21 plus 25, that's going to be 4 over 4, which is just going to be 1 in a moment. So now over here on the left hand side, I'm going to have x minus 5 over 2 squared plus y squared is equal to 1. Okay, so this is now in standard form. My center is going to be the opposite of this, so that's going to be 5 over 2. And then when I have y squared with no visible k value, you know, when I don't have y plus a number or y minus a number, then I know that it's 0. Okay, and then the radius, well, this number 1 is the radius squared. The square root of 1 is going to be the radius, but that's still 1. So this is my center, and this is my radius. So this is going to be a really tiny little circle with a radius of 1. Now 5 over 2 is, as a decimal, 2.5. Okay, maybe I'll just write or 2.5 comma 0. Now I have both forms. So my center is going to be over here at 2.5 comma 0. I feel like I should zoom in. So here's my center at 2.5 comma 0. Since the radius is 1, I should be on the circle if I go up 1 and down 1 and left 1 and right 1. So this tiny little circle will be right here. Now, isn't that the cutest little circle you've ever seen in your life? Aww. Alright, that last one was pretty tough with the fractions and all. Let's see if this one is going to be any easier. So I'm just going to space these out. The x's are already next to each other, so I can just go like this. X squared minus 2x. I'm going to leave a space. And then I've got my plus y squared, okay, equals 8. So I'm all set to start completing the square now. Half of the middle squared. Half of this is negative 1. If I square that, I get positive 1. So I'm going to put plus 1 right here. If I add 1 on the left, I need to add 1 on the right. I don't need to do anything with the y squared. So I'm going to go ahead and factor this trinomial right here. So if I factor this, it's going to be x minus 1 times x minus 1. Okay, and then I've got my plus y squared, and this equals 9. So this is going to give me x minus 1 squared plus y squared is equal to 9. So here's my standard form. I can now say what the center and the radius is. The center is going to be the opposite of this. Okay, so that'll be positive 1, comma. Well, this doesn't have a k value showing, so it must be 0. The radius will be the square root of this. So the radius is going to be 3. So now I can do the graph. All right, so the center is at 1, comma 0. So that'll be right here. And since the radius is 3, that means if I go up 3, down 3, left 3, and right 3, I can see where the circle will be. Kabam, there it is. Okay, so that was it for number 5. Again, I encourage you to pause the video and try to do this one by yourself. So I need to get these x terms together. All right, so I've got my x terms here, and I see I've got my y terms here and here. So I'm going to collect those. So I'm going to have x squared minus 10x, and I'm going to leave space to complete the square. And then I'm going to have plus y squared minus 2y, and again I'm going to leave space to complete the square. And then I will have my 23 over there. All right, so with my x terms here, I'm going to do half the middle squared. Now, half of this, I should do this in green. Half of this is negative 5, but then negative 5 squared is positive 25. So I'm going to have a plus 25 right there. Let's do the same thing with this one. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. But then negative 1 squared is positive 1. Now, on the left, I added 25. So I need to add 25 on the right as well. On the left, I added 1. So I need to add 1 on the right as well. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and factor this trinomial. So that's going to give me x minus 5 times x minus 5. Now I'm going to factor this trinomial. So that's going to give me y minus 1 times y minus 1. And this is all equal to 49. Okay, so when I put this all together, I'm going to have, I guess I'll keep that. For the x part, I have x minus 5 squared. And then for the y part, I have y minus 1 squared, and all of this is equal to 49. So now I can tell the center and the radius. This is my standard form. The center will be the opposite of this, which is 5, comma, the opposite of this, which is 1. My radius will be the square root of this, since 49 represents the radius squared. So my radius will be 7. Okay, now armed with this center and radius, I should be able to do the graph. So the graph has a center of 5, 1, which would be right here. So there's my center. Now with radius 7, I need to go up 7, down 7, left 7, and right 7, even though it's off the graph. Alright, these 4 points show me where the circle goes. Kabam! There you go. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.